Supreme Court has said that it did not cancel the NEET-UG 2024 exam because there was no systemic breach of the sanctity of the exam. While explaining its order of 23rd of July, a bench by Chief Justice D.Y. Chandrachud and Justice J.B. Pardiwal and Manoj Misra, however, said the National Testing Agency must stop its flip-flop on exams as this does not serve the interest of students. The apex court said that the paper leaks were only limited to Patna and Hazaribagh. The court also said that there is a need to consider framing SOP or standard operating procedure for using technology advancements to identify potential weaknesses in the cybersecurity of the examination system and improve processes for enhanced identity checks. Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan has cited the Supreme Court verdict as vindication of the government's stand on paper leaks. Taking to his social media platform, Pradhan wrote that the Honorable Supreme Court's decision has vindicated our government's stand. The government of India is fully committed to a tamper-free, transparent and zero-error examination system. The just decision of the Supreme Court on the NEET-UG exam also completely rejects the propaganda being spread on the subject.
आज सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने नीट मामले में कुछ गाइडलाइंस ले डाउन की है। आज जजमेंट प्रोनाउंस किया गया है जिसमें काफी चीज इरेगुलरिटीज जो हमने पॉइंट आउट की थी उसका सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने उसका नोटिस लिया है और जो कमेटी फॉर्म की है गवर्नमेंट ने उनको काफी डायरेक्शंस दिए हैं कि जैसे पेपर लीक मामले में आपको क्या क्या करना है, कैसे आप इस चीज की रोकथाम कर सकते हैं। उन्होंने काफी डायरेक्शन जैसे पेपर आपका ट्रेवलिंग हुआ, पेपर का कैसे ट्रेवल कर रहा है, आइडेंटिफिकेशन ऑफ द स्टूडेंट, जहां इंपर्सोनेशन वगैरह होता है, ये सारी चीजें नोट इनका एक अच्छे से विस्तार में इनका एनालिसिस करने के लिए सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने गाइडलाइंस आज ले डाउन की है। और कमेटी जो फॉर्म हुई है उनको थोड़ा सा वक्त और दिया गया है ताकि वो जो भी पॉइंट्स हैं जजमेंट में उसको इनकॉर्पोरेट करके एक रिपोर्ट गवर्नमेंट को पेश करेंगे और साथ ही साथ एक रिपोर्ट हमारे कोर्ट के पास भी आएगी।
All right, we are trying to decode, of course, the Supreme Court order. Joining us on the show is Keshav Karunkar. He is the petitioner and parent of a NEET aspirant. Also with us is Dr. Ritvik Bhardwaj. He is a coordinator of UDFA North Zone. With me in the studio is Ashok Bagaria, my colleague. Ashok, I want to come to you first. If one were to really understand what the Supreme Court has said, it would be right to say that NTA, or the National Testing Agency, has been very strongly told off and told to get its house in order.
Well, two words would describe the Supreme Court judgment. First, the Supreme Court says complete overhaul of the NEET-UG exam process. Secondly, no flip-flops by the NTA, which it had done before the Supreme Court in this particular case. So, Supreme Court is saying that the government of India might have set up a committee under the chairmanship of the former ISRO chairman K. Radhakrishnan, but the court is saying that we want to expand the ambit of the committee. That high-powered committee will now suggest ways and manner and procedure as to how the NEET-UG examination in future can be held in a manner that is foolproof and which inspires confidence in the students, number one. Number two, the court says no more flip-flops. We have had enough of flip-flops from you. No more flip-flops. And in fact, Justice Chandrachud, while he was reading out the order, cited instances when the NTA did flip-flops in the Supreme Court. The first instance was on giving compensatory marks to students who had faced a loss of time. So first the court says, NTA says that they decide to give compensatory marks, then they hold a retest for 1563 students, and then they again do a U-turn. The second instance of flip-flop was when the NTA tells the Supreme Court that, look, the breach, first there is no breach, then the second instance is that investigation reveals that there was indeed breach at least in two centers of Hazaribagh and Patna. The third instance what the Supreme Court pointed out was with respect to a question which was asked in the NEET-UG examination, for which the option 4 was considered to be a correct answer as it was decided by professors of IIT Delhi. But what NTA did was NTA also gave full marks to students who had marked option 2 correct. And now subsequently when things were actually hammered out in the Supreme Court, the Supreme Court said that what we have witnessed is there have been a lot of flip-flops from the NTA, and the NTA must completely stop it. There has to be a complete overhaul of the NEET-UG examination. The Radhakrishnan committee will be looking into it. They are given time till September 30th to file a report to the Ministry of Education. The Ministry of Education will subsequently take a decision and also file a compliance report in the Supreme Court of India.
All right, that is of course what Supreme Court has said today. Let's quickly get in Keshav Karunakar on the show. Keshav, are you happy with the Supreme Court order? Supreme Court has justified why it upheld the NEET-UG exam while also asking for a rehaul of the entire process. Are you happy with that order?
I'm not able to hear Sweta.
All right, we'll try and get Keshav back, but let me quickly get in Dr. Ritvik Bhardwaj. Dr. Ritvik, you heard what my colleague described as a complete overhaul of the examination process, which is what the Supreme Court has asked today for NTA and the structures and the loopholes to be looked into, and for a course correction herein for at least the next set of students as and when they appear. What are you making of that order? Your first reactions, please.
I'm coming from a medical background. What I want to say from UDFA also aligned with the same thought is that there is certainly some discrepancy in the examination, and we are thinking that this we are not at all welcoming this judgment by the Supreme Court, but overall whatever the Supreme Court says, we'll respect it, but we have our own concerns. As a doctors, we have our own concern regarding the NEET-UG, where in Patna and in Jahanabad and other places where the paper has been leaked, we have some queries for that, and we should ask some questions to the government. And we should ask questions for the investigation. What kind of investigation have they done?
Okay, well, I think at this point, if I were to come back to you, Ashok, the investigation seemed to be over, at least for now. It's established fact that some centers were in fact involved where students must have had or may have had access to the question paper. It's also established fact that the question paper was leaked ahead of the examination, that there was flip-flop on NTA's part, where NTA gave grace marks, then decided to revoke that, and then reconducted examination for about 1,500 odd students. All said and done, this seemed to me at least, and correct me if I'm wrong, the reading from Supreme Court today is that all that has happened has happened. We're not going to relook at the examination. What we can do perhaps is course correct from here on.
Okay, so basically, there will be heartburn with the Supreme Court verdict and even the interim order arrangement that the Supreme Court made on 23rd July, when it said that they will not be ordering a re-exam in this particular case. And primarily, the Supreme Court has based its judgment on three rationales. The first is that, number one, the tainted and the untainted students have been segregated. Number two, the extent of the leak has been very limited, and the integrity of the exam as a whole has not been compromised so as to order for a retest. So these are the three grounds on which the Supreme Court in its wisdom has...
The test for re-exam has not been met
on
all these three grounds.
On these three grounds, the test, the judicial test which the Supreme Court has laid down in the past, the Supreme Court says that on these three parameters, these petitions have not been able to make out their case.
Right.
So we don't believe that this is a case for holding a re-NEET. Now, after that conclusion, I'm pretty sure, as one of our colleagues, panelists pointed out, that they're not happy with the Supreme Court verdict, and I said that there will be heartburn, because there are students who strongly believe that this was an unfair examination. However, you have to keep one thing in mind. When you're dealing with a public examination which is held on such a wide scale, where almost 24 lakh students participated, it cannot be cancelled on assumptions and beliefs of some petitioners who believe that there was something unfair about this examination. Now here what the Supreme Court is saying, yes, there was unfairness. We have been able to segregate the people who benefited from the exam leak and the students who did not benefit. So when you segregate the tainted from the untainted, the majority, or rather the big picture, is not tainted, or the integrity of the exam is not
not been
tainted.
compromised.
So hence, to push those 23 point some lakh students to take a retest will not be fair.
Absolutely. Keshav Karnakar is back with us. Keshav, are you happy with that order? Do you believe that at this point Supreme Court has done justice as far as ensuring that the integrity of NEET-UG exam is concerned? They are now clear that it wasn't compromised and hence there is no need for a retest. At the same time, some measures have been now put into place or suggested by Supreme Court. A direction has been laid on how to get the examination process better for incoming students next year onward.
Yeah, hi Sweta, good evening. And I am happy with the order. I have seen the live, when live CGI gave the justice also that time. So basically, it was not a big systematic failure as observed by CBI. And though the students understands that there are social media news that keep coming that this has happened, that has happened, but judges cannot go and hear and say. And whatever they have suggested is good. I have read the full judgment that has to be done. One thing that CBI should investigate, which is not taken into notice so far, that one girl from Belgavi, a Gujarat girl in giving exam in Belgavi, scored 705 and failed in board. She has failed again in supplementary exam. These type of cases again gives doubt to the students.
Okay.
And this should be investigated as well. It's not only paper leak. This should be investigated. Looks like a case of impersonation, but should be investigated well. And in social media, what I see from the students, that they are saying that either OMR filling has happened or impersonation has happened. And this is something that should be investigated. It has not come out in a severe investigation. But from day one, I firmly believe that there was no systematic leak. And if you talk to the toppers who have scored well, they will tell you that question paper, with the syllabus being less, people have scored high.
Okay.
Though it is abnormal to have 4x, 5x ranking placement. But I must say that my daughter, whatever is scored, and then students nearby to her rank, I don't see anyone doubtful in Bangalore. I have attended award ceremony of 3 coaching institutes, and I know that I've seen people who are consistent performer qualified. But cases like Gujarat girl is scoring 705 and failing board must be investigated, because this is not usual.
All right, a fair ask, Ashok. You know, those individual cases, of course, where you can establish now that some of these students were in fact tainted, scored very high, have not been able to clear their class 12th examination, have not been able to pass supplementary exam, they should be investigated. But that would be a separate investigation.
Well, that can't be a part of the ongoing CBI investigation. The CBI is basically looking into the case which was transferred from Bihar police, the Gujarat police and Odisha police. Now, though all these 3 cases have been clubbed together and it has been registered as one FIR by the CBI, where they are looking into allegations of paper leak which have been made. Now, if there are going to be fresh allegations of one student who scored 705 marks in the NEET exam but failed to pass a class 12 examination and also the supplementary examination, what needs to be shown is there has to be some material evidence which has to be shown on record before the police or the courts take cognizance of it. Merely pointing fingers and saying that, you know, there is a strong likelihood that this girl did not take the exam and somebody else in her place took the exam,
right,
and that explains the high score and low scores in the class 12th examination. That cannot be the case. I at least know personally many instances were not just in medical examination, but even in engineering examination, where students have passed the JEE but failed in the class 12th examination. However, if there is sufficient material on record, it can be a cause of fresh action.